All right, moving on to the NBA and to 75th season of the National Basketball Association. And as you well know, after 50 years, back in 1996, the NBA put out a list of the 50 greatest players of all time. 25 years later, they have put out another edition, the 75th anniversary team, which includes, I went back and checked, all 50 players from 25 years ago. They've added 25 players, some of them quite obvious. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, among others. Frank, take us through how would you assess this list? Any big snubs that you noticed, or you think they did a pretty good job?
Oh well, yeah, it's definitely some snubs on here. We've been hearing the chatter about two main guys right now that feel like they were snubbed. You know, one being Dwight Howard, the other being Klay Thompson. Now, me and you talked about these two before we started the show, and Klay Thompson, you might have to just eat this one. You'll be on the 100 team. We got you. You'll be on the top 100. Just stay healthy. Keep doing what you do. You will be on the 100 team, no doubt about it. Maybe it was some recency bias here, and maybe they just didn't want to add you right now. But listen, let's not sweat the small stuff, right? Now to Dwight Howard, I think he got a legitimate gripe, because I would like for someone to tell me what it is that Anthony Davis have accomplished that Dwight Howard haven't. Because I would like to know this. They both got their first ring in the same year on the same team, right? When Anthony Davis was the lead man in the Pelicans, they won one playoff series, right? When Dwight Howard was the lead man with the Orlando Magic, they made it to an NBA Finals. Dwight Howard, two-time, Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not even sure if I don't even think Anthony Davis actually got the Defensive Player of the Year yet. I know he's been like number, in the top 3. I know he's been an all-defensive on the all-defense team, but I don't know. I think Dwight Howard got a legitimate gripe. Now, I'm not finna sit here and fake the funk and act like some of these dudes. I ain't seen them play one stitch of basketball. Let's just keep it real. Hey, folks, there it is. I'm a millennial. I'm just going ahead and admit this. Some of these dudes played when it was just black and white. Most of these dudes on here didn't play with a three-point line. It was 16 teams in the league. Some bull. I don't know. But some of these guys, I can't give you an explanation on. But I do think the additional 25 guys, and I agree with most of the guys within, let's say, the last, I don't know, the 20 years that I've known, like you said, the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants, like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Those guys I agree with. But they do got some, like I say, Anthony Davis was the clear-cut guy. I'm looking at guys like, I know, let's see who, I seen it earlier. All right, so let's think about it. A guy like Westbrook, right? So this is a guy that's on here, because you have to, some people use the argument of championships, and then some other people use the argument of stats, right? So clearly it's guys on here just for the stats. Westbrook, Lillard, that I don't want to be don't shoot me, don't kill me, but it's guys on here that ain't won nothing. I'm talking the likes of one Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Reggie Miller. It's guys on here. So my point of bringing that up is to say, clearly this list is not just about championships. It is about accolades and stats. So that's why I think a guy like Dwight Howard has a legitimate gripe, because his stats are very comparable to a lot of guys that's on this list. The only reason you can say he shouldn't be on this list is he don't have if you want to say he only has one championship and he wasn't the main guy of that championship. And like, I guess you could say that, but then I can give you the James Hardens of the world here. There's nothing, what has he done? So I am a little missing screw with this. Now, I do understand like the way the voting went. You had media and you had players. I think you informed me that they took a lot of players from the 50th team and then used them to vote for the 75th team. So I guess so. I'm not enamored with that either. because I don't believe that players that's already on the list should be voting for new players, because like the game was so different. So I think the difference of the game does matter. But I ain't losing no sleep over this. This is an accolade that that's going to get changed in 25 years. So I guess those are the only gripes I would have at this time. But some of these guys I got to pull out. You know what I'm saying? More than Google, I got to pull out some extra old. I mean, who is Hal Greer? Can you give me anything without Google on Hal Greer?
Oh, nothing.
Anything.
Nothing.
David Buscemi, like who? Dave?
I know just from reading a book on the '70s Knicks. I know he was. I think he was a small forward that played with Willis Reed, Walt Frazier. He was on those Knicks teams.
Oh, okay.
Outside of that, I don't know much
about Dave Bean. Oh, yeah.
I got nothing.
You do.
Look, I am more than happy to go down the list of guys who I have no earthly idea about them at all. I'll start.
You ain't gotta. No, you ain't gotta do that. You ain't gotta do that. I was just trying to, solidify my point. A lot of these guys, I'm not even probably qualified to even, talk about. But with that said, the modern guys, that's my point. I think Dwight Howard did. I think he's a very big snub. Klay Thompson, calm down, baby. You gonna get on here. You too great not to miss 2 lists. You're too great. You'll be all right. But yeah, man, that's my outlook on the NBA 75 team.
Yeah, I think for the most part, this is a pretty solid list. There's a few head scratchers, but yeah, when you talk about, Dave Bing and what else we got? Maybe he founded the search engine. Dolph Shays is a good one too. Like you heard of old Dolph before today?
Yeah.
Neil Sharman. There's some deep in the Sam Jones. That's a pretty bland name. No idea who that is. I bet.
Well, I do know who Sam Jones is. Sam Jones was on. He was on the Boston teams back with Bill Russell back. 13
okay.
And all that.
Okay. Was Bob Cousy was a part of that too?
Yeah, I think so. I really did. I think so. Yeah, he was on that. Yeah.
Good times, but yeah, as far as I had to go back and make sure. Like, okay, we're doing a 75. We're doing a 75 list. Are we sticking with the top 50 or did something change? So I wanted to go back and just make sure, like, because it would be kind of weird. Like I can't imagine like making the 50 list and then being left off the 75. Like, hey, what is this? You just letting all these young boys come in and take my spot. So I'm glad that they stuck with that. I did notice like there was 3 that caught my attention because their careers were pretty much over by the time the 50 list came out. They didn't make it, but they're on the 75 list. That would be Bob McAdoo, Dennis Rodman, Dominique Wilkins. I'm not necessarily arguing against any of them. In fact, I think Wilkins and Rodman probably deserving, and that's no knock against Bob McAdoo. I mean, I think he played in the 70s and 80s, so that's definitely I wasn't alive then. But those were kind of curious to me. But as far as some of the guys that we know, I think pretty much the only real gripe I would have is some of the young guys that made this team. It just like, I mean, Giannis, for example. Giannis obviously is a top 75 player, but he's 26 years old. He just started, the past few years, he just started, his ascent to perhaps being the best player in the league, and I think he's in the conversation. I think right now it's him and KD. But he's still got so much farther to go. It's almost a situation where, just for the fact that he's got so much more he's going to accomplish, that's a spot Dwight Howard could have, because Dwight Howard's pretty much done at this point. So, but Klay Thompson's, he's an example in the reversal. Klay Thompson, he's still got a long way to go in his career. God willing, he stays healthy. So I'm not really upset about him being left off. But I think Dwight Howard has a legitimate gripe. I mean, this is a guy who was All NBA for 8 straight years. 5 of those years were consecutive first team All NBA selections. You brought up a point a little bit earlier. The guy did lead an NBA team to the NBA Finals. So, we obviously, I would have liked to see his career, be even better and just have continued greatness and develop a post game for God's sake. But even with that, even with all the gripes and like just not taking the game seriously from time to time, I mean, he's still like, he's got the resume, and especially now you put a title on. I know he didn't have a huge role, but he's still got a lot of hardware and a lot of, whether it accolades, stats, whatever you want to call them, he's got a lot of them. But I do, when you talk about, I'm looking at guys like Giannis. I think AD's a guy I would have left off, on this list. Lillard, I think Lillard's kind of a toss up for me. I'm thinking of like fringe guys, I'm thinking of names like, a Grant Hill, a Chris Webber. I'm even thinking of a guy like Chris Bosh, guys like that. I mean, Bosh is in the Hall of Fame, so I'd like to know how much consideration he got. It's just some fringe guys. I just think it almost feels like a disservice to put a guy on a list too early, because now you're kicking off some guys who, their careers are over. If they don't make it now, they're likely not gonna make it, for the 100th team. Here's another guy, and I like Dennis Rodman, but what about a guy like Ben Wallace? What about Ben Wallace? He's in the Hall of Fame. He's pretty much a Dennis Rodman, Defensive Player of the Year is up the wazoo. That's just another guy I was thinking about. If he's good enough for the Hall of Fame, I'm just, especially guys like Giannis and AD and Lillard. Like I said, I think he's a toss-up. I think all in all, I think it's a really good list. There's just some things that a lot of this is just nitpicking. But my biggest thing is the guys who still are active players and they're going to accomplish so much more. There's a few guys I would have left off and maybe try to give the accolade to someone else whose career is already over.